Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stoof, and today we're gonna do a painting tutorial inspired by the 4th of July. This is a red, white, and blue acrylic painting tutorial. It's not gonna be in real time, but we're still gonna go over the basics for what you need to know to recreate this piece. We have some blue, red, white flowers with a little red bow, and of course the American flag with the 4th of July coming up. And today, as I'm recording, is Flag Day. We have some fun American holidays coming up, so I thought we could do a painting to get us excited for that. So the painting tutorial is coming up next, so sit back and enjoy.
All right, really quickly, let's go over our paints that we're going to use. We're using acrylic paint today. Here we have deep green. You could also use phthalo green here. This is a sap green, or you could use a chromium oxide green would also work. That's a lemon yellow, cadmium red medium. This is like a crimson red. This is burnt umber, black, titanium white, periwinkle blue, or if you have a sky blue, just like a very cool light blue. This is ultramarine blue. That one is Prussian blue. Also, you could use phthalo blue there. And this one is yellow ochre and cadmium yellow medium. And our brushes for today, we have a large angled brush. We have a couple flat tipped medium-sized brushes and 2 finer round tipped brushes. Okay, to get started, you want to sketch out the scene. I started with the vase at the bottom of the flower bouquet, and the vase doesn't go farther than halfway up the canvas. If your vase goes farther up, then you're just going to have to make your flowers smaller so that they still fit on your canvas. Next, I added the little bow. Just had that centered right on the vase, and with our view here we can see we're looking down a little bit at the flowers, so there's a little bit of that lip at the top we can see on the vase, and then this is a glass vase so we can see through it, so I put that little circle at the bottom to give it the shape. Next, I started to sketch out the hyacinth, which is that light blue flower, and that's just like a big cluster, kind of like a ball with some little scrunchy looking shapes inside of it. And then I put a couple little leaves around that. Next, I started to add some daisies where we have a small circle with longer round petals around it. Make sure you don't make your petals perfectly symmetrical on these daisies. Next, we moved up to the red carnations, and those have more of a half circle shape at the top of them with some little spikes coming out of them. For the ones that are facing directly up, and then there are some that are facing closer to us, so we can see more of like a round shape with some jagged sides in it. Next, I added a little bit more flowers at the top to give it some more balance, and then I added the shape for the flag. When you're adding your flagpole, make sure the flagpole is angled so that it would fit going straight down into the vase. You don't want to have your flagpole at like a 45-degree angle, like it's not fitting down into the vase with the other flowers. For the background, you're welcome to use any color you'd like. I used a nice light yellow. Since I have red, white, and blue in my bouquet, I wanted to use a background color that would work nicely with those and not clash. I used my larger angled brush for this and did very fluffy brush strokes, kind of expressive brush strokes to give it that textured background look, adding a little bit of white in there too, just to give a little bit more depth to the background. For the table, I used like a gray, so white with a little bit of black, that periwinkle blue and a little bit of crimson, and then that gave me like a nice purpley gray color to complement the yellow background. I did a little bit of a shadow where I just mixed in a little bit more black right below the vase and the area right around the vase. Another quick pointer when you guys are painting in the background, put a little bit of color in where the vase is. Since the vase is made of glass, we have that yellow visible through the vase, and then the table is also visible through that vase. Now that we have the background colored in, I've started to sketch or started to fill in some color for the bouquet. So I started with the things farthest in the background. For this one, that was the flag, and I just did some Prussian blue with a little bit of black and ultramarine blue to get that base color where the stars go on the flag. Next, I started to work on the hyacinth, and for that I just put that periwinkle blue, and then I started to mix in some ultramarine blue and maybe a hint of crimson as well for the shadows. For the carnations, I just used cadmium red medium mixed with a little bit of crimson, adding more crimson in the shadowy spots. Then I moved on to the stripes on the flag, which was the most difficult part of this painting for me. I thought it would have been smart to start with the white stripes, since if I started with red, then the white would bleed into the red, but I didn't measure out the white perfectly, so it looks a little off here. I ended up tweaking it later and getting that a little bit better, but the part of the flag that is rolling and kind of turning and at the base there of the bouquet is in shadow, so make sure you add some black or cool blue for your white and your reds in the part of the flag that's in shadow. I started out with just a gray, so white with some black for the daisies. I wanted to start cool, and then I build up my highlights later. Next, I took a smaller brush and I started to add some leaves. I mixed yellow with my sap green and got some of those nice little bright leaves where the baby's breath flowers are going to be. Then I mixed more of my darker greens for the hyacinth leaves. And right now I'm focusing on just filling in that white space in the bouquet. Make sure I'm not leaving any space. I want to have a flower or a leaf or a shadow somewhere. Don't want to leave any space without something there. For the baby breath, I just took pure white and just added some little dots there. Next, I moved to the bow, where I used the same colors that I used for the carnation. A nice warm red. I mixed in a little bit of yellow and white with my red for the brighter highlights on that bow, and then I mixed a little bit cooler red with blues and blacks for the shadows on the bow. Now it's time to add our stems that are coming down into the vase. So we are using our cooler greens to start, and then I start to build up a couple little highlights, and these are basically just straight lines all going in different angles but filling in the space for the vase. We also have a glass vase here, so we have a little play on highlights and the way that the light would move through the vase here. So I'm highlighting by adding a little bit of white in there and then adding a couple more shadows and further defining the edges of that vase as well, just to make it look more like glass. And now for the detail on the hyacinth flower. So we have a bunch of petals that are all very, very soft looking, and there are like 4 or 5 petals on each flower, I believe, but they form in these little clusters, so you don't get like a solid flower here, a solid flower there. You just have a bunch of little clusters of petals, so you don't have to go too crazy with detail on this one to make it look detailed. You can add a bunch of these little highlights and shadows and just get like a few in there that tend to actually form a full flower petal, and for the rest of them you just put a bunch of little dots in there. You want to have some areas that have a little stronger concentration of shadow. Now we're moving on to the daisies. These ones are pretty quick. You just add a little bit of ochre yellow for the center of each of these flowers, and then you just add some white highlights around the petals, just some little quick little sweeps of the brush to create those the look of petals. For the carnations, I went back with a highlight of just pure cadmium red medium at the tops. And then I started to add more shadows. So the shadows are kind of like these jaggedy little lines. You definitely want to use a flat-tipped brush for this one, or a small round-tipped brush, just so that you get the maneuverability to create these little jagged shadows that you're going to see. And you want to have more of your crimson and black, or your shadow color, at the base of these carnations where the light isn't making it down all the way. Next, I started to rework the stripes on the flag like I mentioned previously. And then I was looking at the flag and I thought, this doesn't really make sense. I don't think that this is how we would see it actually folding and wrapping around in real life. So I changed the angle of the flag so it would look a little more realistic, and also said it would be balanced on center a little bit. So now you can see the left and right side of the canvas have an even amount of background space. Next, I added the little stars. They go down in diagonal. I didn't count them. I figured you got the point by now. I didn't make it perfect. Then I started to tweak a couple of minor little things with the bouquet. I added some highlights on the leaves. I touched up the base of the vase a little bit more, adding a little more highlight just to further make it look like it's glass. And then I added a little horizon line in the background just so that the table had a little more separation from the background. And then one final touch up I did, since the red and white stripes were still wet when I was blending over that and adding more background color to change the shape of the flag, it blended a little bit of that red in with my background. So rather than waiting for that to fully dry and then adding more of that background yellow color on top of it, I just added some of that pinkish peachy color to the rest of the background so that it all blended together and you couldn't tell that I had made a mistake with the flag. And that concludes the painting. Now we have a finished red, white, and blue bouquet. Hope you guys enjoyed this painting tutorial. Have a safe and healthy 4th of July. Hope you get to spend it with your family or your friends. And happy painting. If you recreate this one, you can post it on your Instagram and tag me, the Painting Stoof, or you could post it directly onto my Facebook page so I can see it, the Painting Stoof. And if you guys are interested in helping me out on Patreon, I greatly appreciate your support. I will leave the reference photo, which is just this guy right here, on my Patreon page for you guys so that you can have something to go off of if you recreate this painting. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.